Alex, thank you so much for sitting down with me again.
Yeah.
It's been a long
We
time.
were just talking about that, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. So much has changed
Mhm.
for both of us, but obviously
Yes.
we're here to talk about the changes, how your career has evolved.
Yes.
In your words, how have things changed?
Right. So I think when we last spoke, I would consider myself more emerging onto the scene, figuring out what I wanted to be as a creative and establishing myself as an artist. And now I do a lot more art advocacy than I do my own artwork. So it's a totally different direction, actually, from what we were discussing when we spoke last.
Yes, and I know that one of the things that stood out to me so much when we first met was just how much light and vibrancy and joy you put into the world with your art. And now you're right. It's like you have sort of passed the baton. So let's talk about that, how the city has benefited from your love of art.
Right. So I've always enjoyed that when I go to other places and travel, which I do quite often, that there's this embrace of public art in all of those unique spaces that I've visited abroad. And so it was important to me to see that in my hometown, Fort Wayne. And so when we last spoke, I was probably only in the beginning phases of actually starting to work with the Downtown Improvement District and develop what became Art This Way. So in a sense, yeah, the baton has been passed to other creatives to hopefully inject some joy and color into public spaces through public art, which I did some of my own work initially, which is part of how I got into it. But now, very much so, it is other creatives that are getting to express themselves out in downtown Fort Wayne and beyond.
So tell me kind of the logistics of that, the nuts and bolts of Art This Way and how that came to be, all of the details.
So I actually had done an exhibit at Jennifer Ford Gallery where I had created a large metal guitar sculpture in collaboration with Alex Mendez, who's another local sculptor here in the area. And after that exhibit was over, I had a 300-pound, 16-foot metal guitar sculpture and no place to put it. And ultimately, that is how I got to have my initial conversations with Bill Brown about what it would look like to put something like that large guitar out into the public and put it on the side of a building. And that's kind of where those initial conversations started. I started going to meetings with the Downtown Improvement District, kind of discussing why there wasn't a more efficient way for creatives to work with downtown property owners to put artwork out there. And it kind of led to all the things you see today. So the artwork within the corridors, the alleyways, and the gateway entrances to downtown is largely due to those initial conversations about a metal guitar sculpture.
Yeah. So how does it work in terms of the artists to whom you've passed the baton? Are they reaching out to you? Are you reaching out to other artists?
Right. So in order to facilitate public art, you really have to have a lot of ducks in the row before you can say, hey, artist, now we're ready for you to design something.
Yeah.
So ultimately what I'm doing to lay the foundation is I'm working with property owners. I'm advocating first to requests that we commission something for one of the elevations of their building. I'm getting that permission. And then I'm achieving the funding goal, which is an understanding of basically how much is it going to cost to do a sculpture or a mural at this site. And once I've obtained the funds, secured the funds, and also secured property owner permission, then I get to engage with creatives. And there's a couple different ways that Art This Way has done that in Fort Wayne, but we do have an online request for qualifications that's always open for any creative who's interested in applying to do one of our projects.
Yes, because you have spread beauty beyond Fort Wayne. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Art This Way is specific to downtown Fort Wayne, but as a result of some of the programming that I've done, I've gotten the pleasure to work with other municipalities and foundations and pseudo-governmental entities throughout the country that have just kind of reached out over the years and said, hey, we're seeing what you've done in the city of Fort Wayne. How did you do that?
Yeah.
And essentially from there, that initial conversation, for some communities, I'm able to help them build out a program or a festival or a sculpture garden. It really depends on the client, but yes, so it all started with Art This Way, and now I work all over the country on projects like this.
It feels like, and I can obviously only speak to Fort Wayne's experience, but it feels like you and the art scene met at the precisely correct time. Like we were ready, and then you were able to execute. So how have you seen the Fort Wayne art scene grow and change? You said there's still a lot of work to do.
Still, yes.
But how have you seen that evolution?
I think it's interesting because what we ultimately used to see is there was a handful of local artists that could stay, and a majority of our local creatives were choosing not to.
Mm-hmm.
And we did kind of come into play in a time when we were able to see more locals, give them jobs in downtown, show the creative footprint in the city, make our city look creative and interesting. And we're kind of seeing that shift where, do they have to go to LA? Do they have to go to New York? Maybe more people are choosing to stay here. So I think it's enriched the local art scene in a way, simply because those creative people that we have always had have chosen to invest themselves in this community and stay in this community. When I do a mural tour and I'm with a group of 10 people that maybe have lived in Fort Wayne their whole lives and have never taken a chance to walk through the alleyways of downtown, or they've class reunions is another one where they've been away for 30 years and they're suddenly like, whoa, this is not the downtown Fort Wayne that I left. Mm-hmm. In those moments, there is that realization that there's probably a majority of Fort Wayne and the community that are just wowed and super excited that this is what their downtown looks like.
Yeah. So when you were sitting at the deck and you were painting your frogs,
yes.
and your frogs that I love so much, mm-hmm. and obviously everybody loved so much, would you have ever guessed that this was the path? Did you know that you wanted to kind of potentially switch gears?
So it's interesting because when I went to school, I didn't study art.
Yes, and I remember. That's wild.
I feel like I'm always ready to switch gears. I think I love to evolve. I don't like staying in one place. So for me, when this became a possibility and I was able to pursue another passion, which is enriching community and changing spaces for the better, it felt natural. I would not have envisioned back when I was painting frogs that I would be facilitating public art in the city of Fort Wayne and beyond. Absolutely not something I thought was a career path for me. But I think that's part of the joy of life, is that it's constantly surprising you and you take directions you weren't expecting and paths you didn't know existed.
Yeah. Do you have any inkling that you might go in a different direction to add some more beauty in different ways?
I don't know. I think actually a lot of clients that I've worked with are curious about whether this becomes like a much bigger firm, like a situation where you take on much bigger jobs and you have staff, and it's this whole consulting, public art consulting thing. I don't know if that's a direction I want to go. I really like that I get to work one-on-one with a community and get to know the mayor and help them achieve what they want to achieve. And there's something really rewarding about being that level of involved and being so engaged. And I've never done anything for money. So that wouldn't be a motivator for me. So I think that it makes sense for me in this direction. The natural way to go in a capitalistic America would be bigger, bigger, bigger.
Sure.
I don't see that for me. I think I would keep it to where I know I have a personal touch and I can be personally engaged and get to know the artists and advocate one-on-one with community and hold town halls and explain why we would install public art. So all of that for me, for this particular direction, I don't see going big in that way.
What has been the most joyful or fulfilling aspect of your journey thus far?
That's very hard to say. I am every day I'm going to have a different response for you probably. In this particular career path, it is very rewarding when I have worked with community for over a year and I maybe had a municipal leader, someone that was very against the project and they were nervous about what this could mean for their community. And then after everything is done, that same person basically does a 180 turnaround and realizes how positive and how impactful installing a work of public art can be, and they come back and they tell you thank you. And that's a really special, rewarding element to this particular career path, because you do end up interfacing with not just people who are pro public art, but a lot of people who are very opposed, and that turnaround is something that's very special, and it helps keep me going when I'm in a town hall and people aren't very happy with me.
I remind myself all the time how far we've come and how people like you facilitate that, and it's for the greater good, truly, not just here, but all over. And I hope you're proud. I'm proud that you are here in Fort Wayne.
I'll always be shy about accepting praise, but thank you. I appreciate that statement.
Well, so thank you for making the world that much more beautiful. And thanks for sitting down with me again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad that I am, this many years later, still bringing some color and joy to the people who I get to interact with.